This is a shocking Houston Rockets trade proposal, and if it came true, would be one of the craziest reunifications between a former player and a former team. It would set the Houston Rockets up in prime position to win an NBA championship. As we dive into the details right here on Rockets Digest. Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Donovan Ricondo. We are talking about a very, very compelling trade for none other than James Harden as we get into that story right now. But before I do that, I just want to remind you all, if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, go ahead and do so now if you want to stay up to date on all your Rockets content. That's daily updates, news, rumors, reports, all that right here on Rockets Digest. Now let's get to the main story for today. A new article just dropped today that it kind of creates a plan for the Rockets landing and acquiring James Harden and what he calls would be the most dangerous team in the NBA. And he breaks it down for us all right here. And of course, according to Tim Bontemps, who reported earlier on, or just a few days ago, that the Clippers could look to move Harden, quote, sooner rather than later. And the timing lines up with how ugly their season has become. As many of you know, they are not doing so great. They are 6-18, 14th in the Western Conference, and there's been a whole bunch of craziness in terms of their letting go Chris Paul. Apparently, they were not on speaking terms. It was ugly between Chris Paul, Tyronn Lue, and that entire Clippers organization, leading to his release from the team. Still, maybe there's a sign of Chris Paul coming to the Rockets. Probably not, but could be. But that is the state of the Los Angeles Clippers right now. And with everything kind of going haywire, why wouldn't they go ahead and trade what they have now while they have it? And that includes a guy like James Harden, who quite frankly is still one of the best players in the NBA. It seems like people kind of forget about him just because he plays on the Clippers, but he's still playing lights out. 26.8 points per game, 5 rebounds, almost 9 assists, but he's at 8 assists and a field goal percentage of 44%, 36% from 3. He is 36 years old. He is getting up in his years, but at the same time, he still is James Harden. He still is a former Houston Rocket, former NBA MVP, and there's a reason why he gets paid the big bucks to play basketball. Now, in terms of teams potentially in vie for James Harden, could be lurking in the background are the Houston Rockets, who suddenly look like a possible landing spot for James Harden. VanVleet out with an ACL tear. Amen Thompson and Reed Sheppard are kind of splitting those duties in terms of the point guard position. Although I like what I'm seeing from Amen Thompson and Reed Sheppard, there is still a case to be made to go out and get someone who is more experienced in that position to kind of fill that gap that Fred VanVleet left, unfortunately going down with this injury. And of course, bringing Harden back in, trading for him, would bring him with Kevin Durant, former OKC teammates, former Brooklyn Nets teammates. And there could be a case of, do we want that on our team? Do we not want that on our team? But that would be such a prime draw for the Houston fans to go and see two of the greatest scorers in NBA history wear the Rockets red in the Toyota Center, doing what they do best and put the ball in the basket. Could be a dynamic duo in Houston. Not that we don't have one already. We have plenty. But this would just be adding to that fire. Now, that is the case for Clippers to make this kind of trade, and why the Rockets are kind of makes sense. They'd need a point guard. That is this position that they are weakest at. And so when you talk about the proposed trade idea, this is what it would be right here. The Houston Rockets would receive James Harden in exchange, and this is quite a hefty trade. I'm not going to lie. This is quite a hefty trade. They would, in exchange for Fred VanVleet, Dorian Finney-Smith, who has not yet played a game for the Rockets this season, Aaron Holiday, a 2027 first-round pick acquired from Phoenix, a 2028 first-round pick from Houston, 2029 first-round pick, the Dallas/Phoenix pick, and a 2031 second-round pick. Quite the hefty bag for a 36-year-old James Harden. I'll let you ruminate for a second there. Process this proposed trade. Think about it. Now that you've thought about it, let's talk about it. James Harden, in terms of money, right? In terms of money, this would be a very, very difficult deal that would put the Rockets at a disadvantage in terms of paying taxes on their roster. You see, James Harden's $39 million salary is exactly what makes this kind of move so tricky for the Rockets. They want to bring him back without touching their prized young core of Amen Thompson, Reed Sheppard, and Alperen Şengün. Then they have to pay a heavy tax in that draft capital. The Clippers would be eating long-term money on Fred VanVleet and Dorian Finney-Smith while giving up the only true star in the deal. So extra picks are the only real way to make it worth their while. That's why you see those 4 draft picks that, quite frankly, seems like a lot. 2027 first round, 2028 first round, 2029 first round, and a second round pick in 2031. So that is why you see all those draft picks right there, because we're not really trading a superstar for James Harden. It would be for very valuable team championship winning guys. VanVleet, Smith, Holiday. All great players any team would be happy to have. They do their roles very, very well. Now, from the Rockets side, this is the most purest form. Not that we aren't in this form already, but this would just put us in a more pure form of we're going to win the title now. That's what this move is. They already are like that, right? We have a roster that is fully capable of winning a championship, but this move would even more so. But I could also make the argument that this move kind of doesn't do that, and we'll get to that in just 1 second. The flip VanVleet plus a useful 3-and-D in Finney-Smith and a rotation guard in Holiday. That's what they'll lose. Then layer the 3 first-rounders and a second on top to get Harden. In exchange, they reunite him with KD. And we know that that works. We also know that it doesn't quite work, as in Brooklyn. Of course, they didn't play very many games together, and the games that they did play, they did do very good. And so there is that to also be said. But it is, having 2 late 30s players kind of be the driving force of your team's scoring, probably not where Rafael Stone wants to head. Yes, you still have Alperen. Yes, you still have Amen Thompson, but tricky waters for the Houston Rockets. That would be the one thing in terms of the financial side. In terms of the offense, though, just for a second, imagine Durant, Amen Thompson, Alperen Şengün, James Harden, and pick your choice of who you want, of Steven Adams even, right? Really get a trio of OKC players in there, right? Like, that is offensively, my God. Who can stop that team when you have threats all around the court? Actual, real, significant threats. That's a tough offensive team to beat, quite frankly. It's so brutally clear what that offense could be, how dangerous that offense can be. It says right here, elite decision makers, and absolutely they are. Alperen, at a young age, elite in his decision making. Kevin Durant, one of the best to ever do it. James Harden, one of the best to ever do it. If you put Harden in there, man, oh my gosh. It says right there at the bottom, 3 guys that can do the pick and roll, punish switches, create something solid late in the clock. They can run pretty much any offense they want, especially if Steven Adams is in, right? Or if you want to put, Jabari Smith Jr. Down there as well. Whoever you want to put. This offense, with that trade, could look very, very nice, very, very sweet. It's almost unfair, is what this article says. Pick and roll, span the middle of the floor, forcing defense to choose between tagging Şengün on the short roll or staying hugged to Durant on the weak side. If you switch, Harden can cook the bigs like butter, right? Like it is not a match. James Harden if the big is on James Harden, just put 3 points on the board already. Like, that is what's going to happen. He's going to knock down a wide open 3. Reed Sheppard, amazing shooter. Jabari Smith Jr. getting there in terms of being an elite player. He's a good player, but he still provides, a lot of things, a lot of good filling out of the roster, which he's doing right now. He's having himself a solid season so far. I know injuries have kind of bogged that away a little bit, but this team would be dangerous. But it comes back to the question of, is this trade worth it, right? Because you would be giving up a lot. A lot. Yes, you still have young guys, and you could make the case you don't need those picks. But at the same time, I would encourage that you would. You would need those picks at some point, considering the NBA draft cap, or NBA, the cap, and first apron, second apron, and how important it is to have those draft picks in those kind of semi-future years, right? That's just my thought. I do think you give up a lot. I think you do give up too much in a trade like this. That's a lot of draft capital. And you also give up good role players, right? Like Aaron Holiday recently has showed why he's on the team, right? There was kind of a question of like, oh, do we need him? Are we going to extend him in the offseason? And we did. Or we made sure that he was still on the team. And that in itself is good news, right? He's been showing why he deserves to be on this team, having some 20-point performances while some guys were out, really stepping up for this team. And, of course, you also got guys like Fred VanVleet who are, yes, hurt this season. It sucks that he's hurt. But at the same time, he offers value, right? It was so clear, so evident in that Golden State Warriors playoff series last year that him being there was what kept this team 2-7, what made it 2-7 games. And so that's why. That's what also you would be losing. And you'll also be losing DFS, who I understand he hasn't played a game this season. We're still doing very well. Oh, do we even need him? Yes. Yeah, I mean, add DFS into this roster right now. This team gets significantly better, especially defensively. And yes, we have not seen that yet, but once he comes in, we're going to realize fully why we traded or why we acquired him from the Lakers this past offseason. I'm keeping tabs on that because I want to make sure that we get to see DFS wear the Rockets red and play some basketball this season. But that is my take on this trade. If I was the GM and this trade came to my desk, as tempting, as great as it would be to relive the days of James Harden wearing the Rockets red and winning the MVP and being one of the best scorers in NBA history, as great as that sounds, he is, at the end of the day, 36 years old. Not to say that he's not an elite player. He still is, absolutely. But the amount of years you are getting from him is a bit of a question. And what's not a question is what you're giving up. Great, solid role guys. Very, very important, crucial draft picks. In the end of the day, I don't think that would be a trade that the Rockets would make. As compelling as it is, I do think what they have now is working. If by the trade deadline something is not, then by all means explore all these options. If the point guard position is just not working, then okay, a little bit more thought. But at the same time, it's a lot to give up. And so far, this team is sitting pretty good. Third place in the Western Conference, not too bad. 15-6. I'll take that, quite honestly. But let me know in the comments what you think about a potential reunion of James Harden in Houston. Do you think a trade like this would make sense? Or first question, would you want James Harden to be back in Houston? And two, would this be the trade that you would make? Is there any other options, any other people you'd be willing to give up, draft, whatever it is? Let me know in the comments what are your thoughts about this proposed trade. Let me know. I'm your host, Donovan Ricondo. We're covering the Rockets all week, so stay tuned. More videos on the way, but we'll see you on the next one. Adios.